Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:01. Before we begin, it is with great respect and humility we acknowledge and honor the lands of the Snuneymuxw people. The Snuneymuxw people maintain their profound, unique, and spiritual connection to the land through ageless traditions, teachings, stewardship, and expressions of reciprocity. I'd also like to acknowledge that our students and staff are located on the lands of Stumeenus and Snuneymuxw people. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? Seeing none, I'm just going to open up my chat bar here to make sure I don't miss anything. Seeing none, are there any objections to the approval of the agenda? Great, seeing none. Can I get a mover for the approval of the minutes from December the 2nd, 2020? That the minutes from the Education Committee meeting held on December 2nd, 2020 be approved. Moved by Trustee O'Neill, seconded by Trustee McKay. All in favor of the approval of the minutes, or anybody opposed to the approval of the minutes? Sorry, getting back into my groove here after some time off. Okay, seeing none, the minutes from December 2nd, 2020 are approved. We have no presentations this evening. Before continuing, I'd like to ask that staff and trustees please put into the chat bar if they have any questions so that I can keep track. And as we move into staff reports, I'd like to ask this evening that questions wait until the end of each staff report, and I will certainly ensure that you have the opportunity to do so after each report is finished. First, on our senior staff report, 8.1, we have Superintendent Scott Saywell.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Happy New Year, welcome back everyone, and good evening. I hope you all had an opportunity to relax and spend some time at home with family and your immediate family, that is, of course. And I can appreciate that spending too much time with family can be a challenge as well. I can tell you I had a nice relaxing break, and I hiked a lot, I read, and probably watched too much TV. So I'm feeling invigorated. I hope you are as well. But there's also a new phrase I heard, which is, while I'm invigorated, there's also a little pandemic fatigue. So I wanted to share my best advice for people who are suffering, which is recognize how you're feeling, deep breathing, get outside, be active, get away from your screens. That was a challenge for me, and perhaps read a book. On your Kindle's fine, preferably fiction. That's my best advice for pandemic fatigue. I did want to talk to you a little bit about what's happening at Snuneymuxw First Nation this evening. As you're aware, Chief Wise has ordered a shelter in place for the Snuneymuxw community. I'm not sure of the up-to-the-minute COVID count, but the last number reported was 19. I'm assuming there will be more to follow. I wanted to also say that I'm so impressed with Chief Wise's leadership, as well as the support from his council and staff, the way they're handling this most difficult situation there. We cannot afford to lose any of our Snuneymuxw relatives to this disease, particularly our Snuneymuxw elders. And so my thoughts are always with them. I'd like to recognize Board Chair McKay and the entire board for their support of the Snuneymuxw people, their sovereignty, and their right to self-determination. As you're also probably aware, SFN was moved up in the queue a little bit and received their first vaccination this morning, of the Moderna vaccine, and they'll have their second shot in about 10 days. I was speaking with some folks down there. And they're Joan Brown, to be specific, their Snuneymuxw Chief Administrative Officer and Knowledge Keeper, and who expressed her immense gratitude. Remember, our Indigenous relatives have suffered waves of infectious diseases since the arrival of Europeans, influenza, smallpox, and the like. So there was a sigh of relief when they were able to get the vaccine a little bit quicker than they were supposed to. So, given the shelter in place and subsequent suspending of in-class instruction at our SFN NLPS co-governed elementary school, Quam Stiliquil, I've asked Principal of QQS, Kevin Brand, to join us this evening and give a quick update on what's happening with our QQS students. But before I bring Kevin on, and thanks Kevin for joining us, I will just announce a decision that was made yesterday to reopen Woodbank Elementary School to off-site, off-reserve QQS students. And I know Kevin has some information to share around those details, programming as well. Oh, Kevin's not here yet? Is Kevin on the line yet? Okay. Oh, okay. So Kevin's just being invited to the meeting. So I'll go on to say a couple things. I wanted to also give you a few numbers. So we have 110 on reserve SFN students attending our schools. 58 of those students are in elementary, and 35 of those 58 elementary students go to Quam Stiliquil. We also have 52 in our secondary schools, and so Assistant Superintendents Dawn Belcombe and Laura Tate are working with principals to provide those remote learning opportunities for those SFN students who are off-reserve students. They're here to answer questions as well. And while we're waiting for Kevin, I have some information about attendance, which you may be interested in. So what I've done is I've got some information. I was curious about this as we were coming back to school. Maybe I was reading Twitter too much, and I was listening to all the people who were, I think, mostly concerned to come back after a break, parents and students. So I got a little information for you this evening. And what I can tell you is, compared to this same time last year, so I have information for 2 days, Monday's attendance and Tuesday's attendance. On Monday, our absenteeism was 9% higher than our first day back last year in January. So 9% higher absenteeism. But on Tuesday, our absenteeism was 9% lower than it was last January on the second day back. So those are some, in my opinion, some interesting statistics that I personally would not have presumed. So maybe I've stalled enough if Kevin's on the line. Chair, maybe we could
yes, Kevin's here.
dance. Oh, Kevin is here. Sing a song, I was going to suggest. Great. Over to you then, Kevin Brandt. Thanks
we were all so close to hearing me sing, Superintendent. Thank you.
It's a shame. They're missing out.
That's right.
All right. Over to you, Mr. Brandt. Thank you for being here this evening.
Perhaps I'll have my moment after all.
I'll try and call and figure out what's going on.
Okay. Superintendent, do you have any other information that you would like to provide around this topic while we're waiting?
Well, I think what we could do is open up for questions, if that might be appropriate, on QQS students or any of the SFN students. If there are questions about any of that programming before Kevin gets here, I know Assistant Superintendents Tate and Belcombe are here as well, and would be happy to answer questions.
That's a great idea. Do any trustees or staff have any questions this evening around this topic? Okay, it is related. Trustee Higginson has a question. Go ahead, Trustee Higginson.
Good evening, everyone. You sort of caught me with my mouth full of dinner. Thought I'd have more time. I do have a QQS question, but I'll start with my non-QQS question related to this situation. And it's, I heard the numbers and I heard the outreach is happening. Have we been successful? What does it look like for classroom teachers who have students who are attending both in class, and then are they supporting the students at home as well? So just, I'd like a picture of what this looks like, and also to know how successful we've been at contacting students to make sure that we can have continuity of learning for them.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I've just had an update that Kevin is not able to get in. We had a little glitch. He is on the phone with Assistant Superintendent Tate, if that's a workaround. Otherwise, I don't know, Mr. Belcombe or Ms. Tate, if you heard that question.
Sorry, Superintendent, I was out of the room trying to solve this problem.
Mr. Belcombe?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, through the chair. So, as Superintendent Saywell would have shared with you on Saturday, we were informed of the shelter and hold on SFN, and so our first question that we had for our students who are not related to not attending QQS was to say which students are attending which of our other schools. So that was our first plan of action to begin the week. In each of those schools, we have 6 schools in total that have students who are on reserve attending, and then they range from 2 or 3 students up to approximately 18 students. And so each of those schools, figured out which their students were, what grades they are in. Obviously, there's concern for students in all grades, and a particular attention for our students who are in grade 12 to make sure they're still on path to graduation. Making contact with each of them. First steps are inquiring about things. Do you have the resources you need? Do you have access to technology? Where are you currently at in your progress in your courses if you're at secondary? And what do we need to do to ensure that they're successful through to the end of the quarter? Because if they stay in a secure and hold, we only have 3 weeks left in the quarter. So that was priority 1 in the first 2 days back from or 3 days now back from the Christmas break for secondary folks.
Thank you, Mr. Balcom. Anybody else have any more comments they'd like to make in response to Trustee Higginson's question specifically? Would you like Trustee Higginson to repeat her question by chance? I know that there was some technical issues there.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I think that might be great. And I'll just add, I'm not sure how well it would work to get Mr. Brand on the line as well, but I might implore Ms. Tate to give a brief update with, I think Kevin's on the line in your office, so that might work okay, I guess.
I've got Kevin on the phone. His phone is near the speaker, and I've got his PowerPoint presentation that I can share. Do you want to try that?
I'm okay with us trying that. If it doesn't work, then we can look at other avenues, but thank you for your creativity.
Okay, Kevin?
Yes, hi Laura.
Hi there. Go ahead and start. I'll just double look at the screen to see if they can hear you. So go ahead and start. I've got your first slide on the screen.
Well, I applaud your courage to try, and thanks for going through these multiple loops in order for me to share. I hope that you're able to see the presentation that I put together here on short notice, and I'm happy to bring an update from Quamquams to week with. But before I do that, I just want to confirm technologically we're okay.
We are okay. We are good to go. They can hear you and they can see your presentation.
Fantastic. So been a moment of reflection in terms of what I wanted to communicate, and really what I've felt our staff has been really prioritizing in the last few days since we found this out on Saturday and communicated to staff on Sunday was about maintaining good relations, and that those relations extend to all of the families we serve, to the Nemahook First Nation, amongst our families, and we're carrying a heavy load right now. And as you know, peripheral supports for the Nemahook First Nation, staff is both directly and indirectly affected in many different ways, and we're proud to be able to stand with the Nemahook in their shelter in place. Laura, if you could go to the second slide for looking back.
Yes.
Since January 3rd in the communication to staff, we've really seen that staff has confirmed the commitment to lead and to support a student-centered approach. At Quam, we're and I've presented on this before, this notion of holistic learning. We're very aware of the interconnectedness of physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental development. And so this has been a time to really consider where we need to be supporting and understand the diversity of our community. In a very short period of time, it was identified that we really want to prevent that lag time that we may have seen in the spring and immediately get out to these families a learning package of supplies so that every family will have sort of a universal starting point for their decision in terms of how they want to proceed in this moment. I want to commend our teaching staff, our support staff, everybody for jumping to this opportunity. Working closely with Baby, we've been able to get a backpack of supplies that were delivered today to every CADA 4 student that lives on reserve with SFN, and we worked with the nation to do that. We've also been able to connect with many of our grade 5 to 7 families, and I'll share a little bit later why this is a different approach, because we're going to more of an online model with those students, and we wanted to make sure that we had Chromebooks for deployment. And so we've been working with Zayad and the technology department, and they've confirmed that they have an allocation and allotment of Chromebooks for our deployment, and we're going to be working on that Thursday and Friday for the on reserve and off reserve students that we serve. I was able to get out some correspondence today, and so we'll be following up that correspondence with families through phone conversations, emails, etc., confirming if there's technology needs for the families. We also were able to fast track in-service from athletics, and it's a fairly comprehensive online mathematics support and numeracy support to complement the work that we've been doing in school. And we have a in-service prepared for tomorrow afternoon for our staff to be able to, I think, just sharpen up their ability to support online. And our staff also was able to, from really no understanding of where the vision was going to take us, work collaboratively to put forward to our senior staff and to the nation a 3-option learning model to move forward. And if we can move the next slide, I'm proud to share that sort of currently today, we have had confirmation of that learning model. We just sent out communication with families following the communication from the board and from Chief Wise. And what that's going to allow for is for families to understand that they have three options depending on the needs of their family. I'll unpack those a little bit, but one of the options that was new was this idea of in-person learning being reallocated for those families that currently live off reserve but attend our site. Along with preparing Woodbank, and this is the time to just tip my hat to all of the amazing people at the board office, the facilities team that's been working with us. We're fast-tracking site prep with custodial work, classroom setup, etc. And tomorrow morning, we're meeting with Arlen and Will and our health and safety team at the school to go through the full COVID safety planning process, the same process we did upon re-entry in June. We have some transportation concerns that we're working out, but with having Woodbank as the site, it's going to be fairly seamless in terms of maintaining our existing route for families and then just diverting up the hill a little ways. And then, of course, technology deployment. We have in the school's possession an allocation of Chromebooks that will meet our needs, and if not, we know where to go for more. And we're then now aligning that with the needs of the families. And of course, it's really right now allowing teachers time and giving them the full support to continue with their strong holistic learning models. And that's it, but there's lots of good energy and lots of enthusiasm and collaboration going on. Skip ahead, and I'm trying to keep within the 5 minutes here, so pardon my quick speaking. We're good, Laura?
Yeah, we're great. Keep going.
Okay, thanks.
Pick it up.
In terms of learning options here, the first option, and I actually do want to slow down a moment and just speak to this, and this really has to do with some of the learning our staff is doing in working in two worlds. Pardon me. I think it's really important that we understand our role in this time, what our role is and what our role isn't, and that we follow the lead of community and that we listen really carefully. And there's wisdom coming our way around families' desire to be just so. And so for that reason, option number one is very clearly laid out. We will provide you with materials, and when you're ready, we are ready, absolutely. But we also don't want to be that phone call that keeps ringing that is uninvited, or something that just does not align with the family priorities or values at this time or needs. So the relationships will stay stronger if we allow that family to remain strong in their own plans. Option number two is very much respecting the safety concerns and the orders of on-reserve families, where we know that these families are maybe at home and maybe not necessarily wanting to be there, but very much following the community guidelines, but they want to continue on with the learning. Many of our families continue to be in school through this whole year, and even when cases began to rise, we still had good attendance and families coming. That means that there's a need being met through the learning, and so we wanted to ensure with option two and option three, we were able to identify what was the need that was being met by those families that maybe despite safety fears or whatever, we're still bringing their students to school. Was it a social need? Was it an academic need? Was it a physical need? And the meals we provide were sort of that stability and structure for the family. So for those that are at home and they don't have the option, there will be that close guided side-by-side and online learning experience, and that's what we're really mobilizing our staff to be prepared for, and there's really good work being done both through the learning coordinators and within our staff. But we were really excited about option three, and option three came to fruition through staff discussions and teachers. I won't be able to quote it, but I can say to capture the spirit of it was essentially get us the kids and we will help them learn. We will be there for them. And so that started the process of thinking, what could that look like? What site might work? How can we continue the nature learning that is so prevalent in our primary end? And that was then brought to the senior team, and what was returned to us was the perfect fit of Woodbank Primary School. So we are currently working on that for face-to-face. We anticipate 3 cohorts, and the 3 cohorts will be set up like our LCCs were initially until we get some further understanding of what the context is. Those 3 pods, those 3 classrooms will be a carryover in the same teams that were established in our COVID pods back at Quamquam. I'm going to pause there, but I think in conclusion, I just want to acknowledge the collective work being done, the good relations that are occurring, and the way in which in a very short period of time we've been able to prepare these options for families. It's with extreme gratitude. So
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. That was a wonderful job. I'm going to turn it back over to the superintendent to see if he's going to request or ask for any questions. So just hang on the line if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just add my thanks to Kevin and the teachers and support staff at QQS for rallying and getting the educational programming up and running for QQS students, as well as all SFN students. Both on and off reserve. I'll turn it over to you, Board Chair, if there are any questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm actually very surprised and impressed that that worked so well. We were able to hear you very well, and Kevin, I'm always impressed by your ability to pull things together quickly, and your continuous leadership is evident as always. And clearly, the leadership of the community as a whole is you know, it's very impressive to see all of the amazing work that's being done in such a quick period of time. So a big thank you for your presentation. Thank you also to Assistant Superintendents Tate and Balcom for the information that you provided. Before we go on to our first question, I just wanted to bring it back to Trustee Higginson, who had asked a question. I'm not sure if it got fully answered, so I did want to give her an opportunity to go first, and then I will move on to a question by Trustee Stanley.
Thanks, Chair. You know what? I'll hold my questions so that Principal Brand doesn't have to hang out waiting longer than he needs to. So I can just wait until we're done with QQS. Thanks.
That sounds good. Trustee Stanley has a question. Or comment.
Yeah, mine is kind of more from a district level, so I'm not sure if Principal Brand can excuse himself or not, but because you know what, I feel like I would love to have a question, but I feel like it's too early because we've had to scramble and come up with solutions on the fly, and I'm so incredibly impressed with the responsiveness and the dedication to continuity of learning. You know, I recognize that there is a silver lining in this, and so rather than a question, I guess it's a comment in that sense that I really think that there's lots of opportunities to learn from this experience, and it's fundamentally Quam has been put in a position of being a pilot project for us with other, you know, potentially, you know, from a full district perspective of what happens if we have a significant infection, or we need to shut a school down, or, you know, an emergency situation. So I just kind of wanted to throw that notion of thinking of this as a pilot project, and this opportunity of learning from all the lessons that they're learning as they do this in such a short period of time. You know, and also express my deep gratitude for all the work that must have gone into this, which I'm sure we will learn more as time goes by. So thank you with gratitude, but also I do think with appreciation for them, hopefully they'll be willing to share their experience and knowledge from this.
Thank you, Trustee Stanley. Are there any other staff or trustees that have any questions or comments that they would like to make while we have Kevin Brand on the line with us? Literally on the phone line. I am seeing none. And to clarify, Trustee Higginson, you prefer to wait to let our Principal Brand move on with his evening?
Yeah, that sounds.
Okay, great. So then we'll bring that portion of the presentation to a close, and then Kevin, if you want it to leave for the evening, then that works. So I'll move back to Trustee Higginson. Thank you again, Kevin, before you go. Moving back to Trustee Higginson with your question.
Thanks. So it was just about reaching out to the non-QQS on reserve students and how that outreach is going and what our process will be to support those students. And the other question that was kind of in my muddled question was also how it's working, and this might be both a QQS question as well, but not specifically to Principal Brand, but how it's working for people who are going to be supporting both their classroom students and their students who are going to be learning remotely.
Yeah, so through you, Madam Chair, I think Mr. Belcombe had a good start to answering that question. I see him again, so maybe he wanted to say a little more, and then I think we'll turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Tate as well.
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, yeah, I think I partially answered the question and then kind of paused as we moved away. So I'm happy to come back to this question. And it's a good question around how staff at schools are going to support. You know, they may have 20 students in attendance and then have 3 or 4 students who are learning remotely while they're part of the shelter and hold in place. And that's a school response. It's not just that teacher who needs to rally around that. So at the secondary level, you know, our administrators, our counselors, our support staff are all hands on deck to help figure out what those students need to be successful while they're learning remotely. And obviously, our teachers have been prepared for this. Some of them have had some pretty good success back in the spring when they had some remote learning. So a lot of them have the electronic capacity for students to engage remotely. I mentioned the technology. SFN has checkpoints to arrange for drop-offs of physical packages of materials in addition to supplies. And I know our elementary schools are putting those packages together, and some of our secondaries will have some physical stuff to drop off that'll be ziplocked and labeled for students. And I know John Barsby's also reached out food-wise to support the nation. Their cafeteria program there, Teacher Holly Knox has been quite proactive in trying to assist. So it's kind of an all hands on deck, and it literally will look a little bit different for each student because each unique student has different learning needs, and schools are trying to be responsive for each of those. So I'll pause there for follow up, or if Assistant Superintendent Tate wants to add some perspective as well.
Thank you. Through the chair. Yeah, it's teachers, staffs as a whole have been really thinking about this, and QQS more than to a huge degree has been planning for this in September. So structures and systems have been put in place. You know, from the district perspective, for months now, we've really been working with our principals and vice principals to really focus on students not attending generally overall. So I know this SFN adds a new flavor to that complex situation, but we've been looking at attendance differently this year. So we've been working with principals and vice principals really to brainstorm all sorts of ideas, and as Assistant Superintendent Balcom has highlighted, really working together as a staff. It's not me alone with my students in my class to figure this out. It's staff coming in working together, whether it's combining classes that are in the same cohort to free up a teacher to do some phoning home or to do some, you know, assessments online or what have you, or whether it's some of the other staff members, you know, co-planning, co-teaching, working with classroom teachers, or working and figuring out who the lead contact person is going to be. We've required that every school have a lead contact for every student that we're concerned about with regards to their attendance. So all of this stuff is kicking in, particularly right now when we're looking at our SFN students. We've learned a lot from since March, and so we've been trying to impress and will continue to press the use of technology to support what we're already doing in classrooms, even though kids are in our classrooms. So the, you know, Google Classroom and Mathletics are two of the things that were already mentioned. Our Learn 6.8 website has a plethora of resources there for helping teachers to deliver learning online or virtually in some way. And as that was already mentioned, packages, we've sent care packages that have all sorts of supplies and like notes and cards and crayons and pencils along with the work packages and notes from their classmates. So we're trying to cover every base. A lot of creativity, I think, is coming from right from the grassroots, right at the school level. That's where the creativity is coming and staying connected and teaching kind of in this combined manner. So.
Thank you. Superintendent Sable, did you have any final points to add?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, thank you. Through you, Chair. I'll add that a reminder to trustees that back in 2020, we had through MasterCard and Kwame Lalem and the Nanaimo Ladysmith Schools Foundation an opportunity to provide 204 laptops, Chromebooks to secondary SFN students. So that's really helpful right now. And just to split out those numbers again, so it's 52 secondary school students that are SFN students on reserve, And outside of QQS, it amounts to 17 elementary students at Bayview, Fairview, Cedar, and a couple at Quarterway. And so I thank all those staffs for doing a great job to ensure there's a continuity of learning.
Thank you. Trustee Higginson, do you have a follow-up to your question?
I don't, but I do want to take the opportunity just to say thank you. I've learned a lot tonight, not only just about this particular situation, but about what we're doing to be prepared for this situation and to support it. And I have to tell you that letters home from their classmates, that really pulled at my heartstrings. I think we're all a little COVID tired. So it was really nice to hear that. Thank you for all the work you guys are doing.
I agree. I was feeling that moment with Trustee Higginson and forgot I was chairing for a moment there. Thank you. So any other trustees or staff have any other questions around this topic before we move on? I'm seeing none. A big thank you for the information and for everything that you're doing. I'm going to move on to 8.2, the Department of Learning Services, and I'm going to pass it over to Deputy Superintendent Tim Davey to do an introduction. Thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you. And first of all, just before I move on to the next item here, I just want to thank again Principal Brand and Assistant Superintendents Tate and Belcom for providing the updates this evening in terms of support and response to the situation involving Snuneymuxw First Nation, the shelter-in-place order, and ways that the staff are stepping forward in a big way to support the students. So thank you to everybody who's involved in this this process. I'll begin just by wishing everyone a happy new year and expressing from my end, it's a pleasure to be back and to see everyone's faces online here as well. So thank you for that. And I'll before I make the introductions here, just wrap up as the superintendent has indicated, but want to express that our thoughts and well wishes again are with our Snuneymuxw relatives and friends, and wishing them all the best through these times. And you know, I know we'll see a a good light at the end of all this. So best wishes to them as we're thinking about them. So. It's my pleasure to be able to introduce on behalf of the Department of Learning Services some district principals who are here to present on updates regarding district programs. First of all, and I know I've seen them online, but thank you to District Principal Rob Hutchins, who's here for international education. I know he had some issues that he was addressing earlier, and thank you for making the time to be here tonight, Mr. Hutchins. And in addition, we've got looking forward to some great presentations. Again, District Principal Derek Beeston with the Career and Technical Center. We've had Mr. Beeston presenting to us in the past, and I'm certainly looking forward to receiving and hearing these updates from Mr. Beeston tonight regarding how the CTC program is operating and what's happening with in terms of supporting our students through that program during these times of the COVID pandemic here. As well, we have District Principal Justin Mark, who is new to the position as principal for Island Connect Education. We've had updates through the fall, just in regards to the tremendous work that Principal Mark and the staff at Island Connect Ed are undertaking as we're moving forward here. Certainly, we've heard in the past just about the great influx of students coming into the school. So I'm equally looking forward to the presentation from Principal Mark, and for him to be able to give us an update as to the impact this is having on the school and how they're supporting the students connected to those programs. And as we've had in the past, it's a pleasure to welcome District Principal Brett Hancock, Principal of the Learning Alternative Programs, to give us an update. And there's a plethora of programs connected to learning alternatives. And again, equally, I can express my appreciation for the work that Mr. Hancock and the staff of Learning Alternatives provide in terms of support to students throughout our system here. So in that order, we'll be receiving information from the principals. So thank you very much for allowing me to introduce them, and I'll turn it over to Principal Hutchins. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Davey, and good evening, everyone. Chair Barron, Board of School Trustees, and District staff. I just first of all want to compliment you from what I've just witnessed over the last half hour, the care, the dedication, compassion you bring to the table, and we're in good hands, so thank you. I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on the International Student Education Program. We are one of 34 school districts in the province of British Columbia that invite international students from around the world to join our families, our schools, and our communities. Our district has been in the business of international education for the last 22 years. And during that time, thousands of students found their way to Nanaimo Ladysmith from over 35 different countries of the world. Some come from a single semester, and some come for a year, but we have many that actually choose to stay to graduate and also choose to join us for post-secondary education in Canada. As you know, British Columbia is one of the top academic performing public education systems of the world, and we have a rich diversity of course offerings that is not offered in most parts of the world. International students come to better themselves, to improve their English, to experience Canadian culture, and explore our land. And in turn, they have enriched our schools and our communities by their presence. They have shared their culture, their language, and their skills and talent with us. They have made lifelong friendships. Many have chosen Canada as their home, and many have returned to Canada in adulthood to visit their second families. Our world has become a kinder and more connected world by the work of these courageous young ambassadors. I want to thank you for your leadership and your support for the International Student Education Program during this challenging time of a world pandemic. I've been asked to answer 3 questions for you tonight, and I would like to share my screen at this time if I could. And one part of it, I believe, is going to be, I hope this is the right screen. Chair Barron, do you see Welcome to Nanaimo and Ladysmith International Student Education Program?
It just came up. Thank you. Yes, we can see it.
So I was asked to answer 3 questions. How has the pandemic changed our story with staff and students? Obviously, the first impact has been the reduction in numbers. So in 2019, this is a snapshot of 1 year, the year before the pandemic, we had 315 students from around the world. This is head count, not FTE. Just taking a look at some numbers, I want to talk to you about the next slide. China has always been our single largest contributor, especially for the last 20 years, with 97 kids last year. Brazil is always in competition with Germany for the last 5 or 6 years. Typically, they would send 50 kids, and Germany would send about 50. Last year, it was 47. Mexico and Japan are similar in number on a consistent basis. Mexico 23 and 24. But as you can see by the next slide, instead of 315 kids this year with a spring intake that we're receiving this month, we're going to end up with about 160 students. This is nearly twice as amount as we expected last spring when we were setting the budget. But it's not just a reduction in numbers, but the impact of the pandemic is different from depending on what countries you're from. So you can see many of the Asian countries would be about half their regular numbers. But South America and Mexico in particular, the impact of the pandemic, but there's also another story, is the ability of the Canadian IRCC or the Canadian government to reestablish operating VAC systems or visa application centers. And you can see that this year, there's 3 here, but we have one that just couldn't get his study permit in time. So we only have 2 Brazilians rather than the normal 50, and those 2 chose to stay the summer, and that's why they're here at John Barsby. We have typically 25 Mexicans coming in, but this year we have 1 who is attempting to return. He was with us last year. He went home, but he's had trouble getting a renewal of his visa. European countries, Germany has actually maintained about 80 to 85% of its normal numbers. However, Spain, which typically over the last 15 years has never failed to send 10 to 20 students, because of the impact of the virus in that community, not a single Spanish student is joining us this year. So new experiences, what happened to us in the spring, we saw the border restrictions in place on March 18th, and the Quarantine Act was enforced in mid-April. At that time, we had a host of students, and what was happening around the world caused much anxiety. Do I go? Do I stay? Certain countries such as Japan brought their kids home. Certain agencies like Education's, second largest agency in the world, they chose globally to bring their kids home. Some families just said, let's get home quickly. Others decided, let's wait it out. Those that left early were fortunate to get home. Those that chose to stay were faced with not just one, sometimes 4 canceled flights. In the end, countries such as Thailand and Vietnam, Brazil were dependent on their students getting home through repatriation flights that were organized. And those only happened once every month in the summer months, so once in July and once in August. For the first time, our district homestay was operational over the summer, as well as our custodianship, because we had 50 students that chose to stay this summer. 15 of those were in our homestay, and 35 were in private homestays. Of the 50 that stayed, we had 17, and this is what was so unusual, because typically in September we're enrolling somewhere between 250 to 275 students. However, only 17 were able to get into Canada because our borders had been closed. But these were largely returning students, but we also captured 4 students that chose to join us, one from West Vancouver, one from Burnaby, one from Port Alberni, and one from Victoria, I believe. We were able to participate, the province of British Columbia, because we had so many students that couldn't get in. They established a distance learning opportunity through global education out of Kamloops, District 73, and 10 of our students chose to commit themselves to our district and enroll in courses through that organization. We had 16 students join us in November, and we're expecting about 74 students to join us for Q3 and Q4, all flying in, not this weekend, but the following weekend. Another big change for us is that our significant efforts to showcase our province, our island, all those activities, whether it's going to Banff, going to Vancouver to Victoria, the West Coast to Whistler, all those have been cancelled, as well as all the other host of activities we take our children on. How are we responding? First of all, we have an incredible linkage with all federal, provincial, and local health and safety. We follow those local health and safety protocols. Strong connections with our provincial and federal partners through either EPSI, CAPSI, or the homestay networks. And so these are weekly meetings where everybody's sharing ideas, working through the new initiatives and new challenges that come across our desks. We're working with restrictions to provide quality programs with a personal touch. We're ensuring our students graduate with us, have the opportunities to complete required courses. The new timetabling of the quarter system and the cohort system has taken a lot of flexibility, and so it's taken a lot of work to make sure the students' needs are met. As I mentioned earlier, we're working with Global Education out of Kamloops to provide students with offshore distance learning opportunities. By the way, the 10 kids that are on that program, 9 will be with us by the middle of January, and they'll be able to finish their coursework while they're here. 1 will remain in China until and spend the whole year doing his 8 courses online. We are constantly accommodating a variety of arrival and deferral and cancellation scenarios. We are getting constant surprises as agents and families grab flights that become available, and we suddenly find that we are getting flight information for a student that we didn't expect to arrive to the middle of January. They arrived yesterday. Our communications remains a priority. Student homestay newsletters, agency information updates go on a regular basis, and our daily quarantine check-ins when we have students in quarantine. And to date, we've had 33 students successfully complete quarantine, and we have 1 in quarantine now, but we're expecting another 60 to 70 join us in quarantine starting a week Sunday. And we are also, in terms of communications, making extremely strong virtual presence with agents and through virtual fairs. So unfortunately for us, in terms of our workload, these will be often on weekends, they'll be in the evening, they'll be in the early morning to meet their times. And we're finding that we're not just recruiting agents to these fairs, we're actually talking directly with family members and children. New strategies and resources to keep students safe. We had to create a student arrival guide, which students receive. It's about a 16-page guide. By the way, just accolades to our team. This student arrival guide, we had the second largest company in the world, the North American representative, phoned me and says, Rob, can we use this? And I said, use what? He says, your student arrival guide. We've seen so many of these, but this is really the best we've seen. And I said, you're welcome to use it. International Student Homestay Quarantine Guide. We put our homestay parents who are doing the quarantine through a workshop. We provide them with a comprehensive document, step-by-step, and all these items have been approved through the local and provincial health authorities. And we also, I think, unique to our district, we spend about $25 to $28 providing each of our homes, even our private homestays, with a homestay quarantine kit to ensure that all the basic resources are available to every home in our program. We've had to adjust our staffing model. We've had reduced numbers. One of our head secretary went on leave in August. Our temporary secretary became the acting head secretary, and since October, our support secretary position has not been filled, but we will need to replace that position most likely in the early spring. On September 4th, we lost 2 of our homestay coordinators, one to graduate school and one to long-term leave. I served as a district principal as well as a homestay coordinator from September 4th to November 30th. Very fortunate and appreciative that we were able to hire Kelly Muir to take on the role, and it has been an incredible introduction to homestay coordination by Kelly in the last 5 weeks, because she's had to find homes for so many students that are coming in January. We've also adjusted our staffing model. 3 of these people were not here last year, so typically each one of our high schools has an international student advisor, which works with the students. However, this year, those responsibilities were assigned to counselors, or in this case, Jeff at Vice Principal John Barsby, people with non-enrolling blocks that could work with the number of students that they had. One thing that we've had to do is refocus our student experience. So I talked about our rich variety of adventures and activities we do, and because of COVID, we cannot do that. And so we've made sure that we have the very best rich academic opportunity. So for the first time in our program's history, we actually send the timetables in advance to the students, to the agents, and make sure that at the very least we can give them the best possible options for their activities at school or their learning at school. We work very closely with our homestays to make sure that they are able to do what they can to fill in the gaps based by our not doing our own activities. And I'm going to know I'm running out of time here. We do a monthly newsletter, and one thing that we added in September and October and December is that things to do in, around, and I'm a Ladysmith, and it's just a page and a half of different activities that are available, safe activities for the families and the international students to do on their evenings and their weekends. And one thing that we haven't done before, but we're introducing in the month of January, is social media. So we're going to be setting up a Facebook page to connect our homestay parents so that they can pool the resources, share ideas, and learn what else is happening in the community to enhance their students' experience. So where do we go next? We are informed and responsive to the changing world conditions. We continue to build connections with students and agents from around the world. We proudly showcase our students, our district, our communities, and we are proud of our international reputation, and we have a good one. We remain a highly desirable destination And as the pandemic diminishes, we are ready and excited to rebuild our program. I'm now going to ask Dale if he could play a short video that has been very well received, whether it's been shown in Japan, which I did for 3 events just before Christmas, a similar video in Italy and Thailand. Thank you, Dale.
Great. And is that your presentation?
That's my presentation. So thank you very much. Welcome any questions.
Thank you so much, Principal Hutchins. That was a great presentation. I'm very, very impressed by your ability and your program's ability to evolve and adapt as we continue down these roads during these challenging times. And obviously you're doing a great job at continuing the work of bringing students in and making the most of these circumstances. I was reflecting on how much both the students that come to our district and the students that are already in our district benefit from this program. So a big thank you for all you do. And you know, maybe a little out of protocol, but I wanted to share that one of my brothers had the opportunity to move to Peru for his grade 12 year, and it shaped the future of his career. He's now built a career on teaching Spanish. And so I've seen firsthand the positive impact that immersing yourself into another culture and language can have on learning from one another. So a big thank you, and I appreciate you bringing this presentation to us this evening. I'm wondering if there are any trustees or staff who have any questions for Principal Hutchins before we move on to the next presentation. We have a question from Trustee Higginson. Go ahead, Trustee Higginson.
Thank you. Hi, Rob. It's nice to see you. You're looking
Hi.
good. It's like so far away. For my trustee friends who don't remember or know, Rob is also a trustee. He's a fellow colleague trustee in 79. So we get to see Rob when we actually get to see each other at our learning events, but right now that's not the case. Listen, your presentation really reminded me of you know, less students but more effort. Like, holy Toledo, look at all the work that's going into making a safe learning environment for these students. And it was really interesting. I never even thought about the impact of the quartermaster on our international students. So thank you for reminding me of that. And I just also want to compliment one more thing on the courage of these students and their families to come here during this time. Holy wow, what warriors. So my question after all of that is, I know in the spring what we had was a number of students who were here as international students, but not necessarily homestay. So of the number you gave us, how many of those students are homestay students? Like actually homestay?
Right now, this moment in time, with the 70 that we have coming in, we will have 100 in homestay and about 56 to 60 in private homestay.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And about, it's interesting is that about 1/3 of those in private homestay are actually living with their mother or father or a close relative.
Wow. Well, I also want to give out courage to our homestay families as well. I think it's really incredible to Trustee Barron's point about the impact that this can have on someone's life for them to be able to do this right now during this time. So I just extend my gratitude to all the work, to also, once again, another example of us adapting to this current context. So happy New Year, Rob. Thanks for all your work.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks for the question, Trustee Higginson. And no, I had no idea, Principal Hutchins, that you're also a trustee. What a cool blend of two worlds you're living. I have
It is.
Yeah, I have another question from Trustee Stanley.
Hi, yes, so through the chair, I'm wondering if, Principal Hutchins, you could speak a little bit about, I often come from things from the mental health perspective, and what I see as one of the challenges, and I used to actually work at an international school, but one of the challenges is isolation. Integrating into, even from just moving, it's hard to meet new people, right? So COVID makes that harder. Can you just tell me a little bit about how, what is the program's approach into ensuring that students aren't isolated? How is it that we help them from the social connection perspective?
So first of all, through the quarantine process, so each one of our children is quarantined in their homestay. For those homestays that can't quarantine a child because of age of the homestay, somebody that's over 65, a health-related issue, or because of their job, if they're first responder, they cannot quarantine. And so, for example, the number of kids we have coming in right now, 5 of them, the homestay can't quarantine. They go to another homestay that's willing to quarantine an additional child, or a child that they don't have and they just want to be part of the program. But right away, every day we meet with those children. So we use Zoom actually with them, because that's what the universal tool is in terms of our international students. And so we meet for at least half an hour, and we have a list of activities we'll do we don't do it on the weekends, but for typically 10 days of their quarantine. And the beautiful thing is that whether it's 12 kids or 14 kids in that particular group, they're able to meet each other. They're able to exchange emails, exchange phone numbers. And then typically what happens is that, we start at 1 o'clock, but whoever's leading it would probably let them know that, hey, we'll start the meeting unofficially at 1:45, and then it goes to 1:25, and the kids come online early because they want to chat among themselves. And it's just been a beautiful opportunity that we actually never had before, because usually they'd arrive on the weekend before school starts and whew, they plunk into the school life. And so we were able to unexpectedly, and we didn't realize the benefit of the quarantine effort. They're isolated, but now within a very short space of time, virtually they get connected. And we found from the first group, we had 17 in September, we had another 16 in November. It's paid dividends in terms of when they get to school, they've already had 14 days of engaging with one another. I hope that answered your question.
Do you have a follow-up, Trustee Stanley?
No, that's appreciated. Thank you very much.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I'm not seeing any further questions in the chat bar. I think at this point I will bring it back to our Deputy Superintendent Davey, and a big thank you to you, Principal Hutchins.
Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Principal Hutchins, thank you as well to you. Fantastic presentation. It's very informative, and also at the same time, I just want to express my appreciation for your ambassadorship for the Nanaimo Lady Smith Public Schools internationally, and certainly the work that you and your staff are doing during these COVID times, just to be a support, and certainly an advocate again for our district, but also for students as they're moving through this this time and the changes that are taking place here. So thank you to you again, and to your staff for excellent work that's taking place throughout our district here. So Madam Chair, it's my pleasure again to introduce from the Career and Technical Center programs, Principal Derek Beeston, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Beeston. Thank you.
Hi, and through the chair. Thanks for this opportunity to share what we're doing at the CTC and how the COVID and how we've responded to it. It has been an interesting challenge in the fact that we have our protocols for our school district we're dealing with, but we also have to deal with the protocols of VIU, BCIT, and North Island College. So coordinating with the other 3 institutions who all have their own sets of protocols and how they work, and being a conduit of that information to the students on when their classes are starting and their Zoom sessions. It was quite interesting at the beginning of the year. Our students weren't really prepared for it, as most of our kids that are taking post-secondary programs through the trades are hands-on students, and many of the programs ended up front-loading all of their academic work into the first few weeks because they really didn't know how, or even if they could, run classes. So it was a big challenge for us to connect with those kids and keep them motivated when they're expecting to walk into a classroom and pick up a wrench, and instead they're looking through textbooks for 3.5 or 4 weeks and not even meeting their teachers or seeing the shop floor, as they say. So it was an interesting challenge. I'll go right to the PowerPoint because it sort of answers some of the questions that might have come up from that little introduction. And I will set it up to go. Start slideshow.
We can see it on our end.
Oh, can you? Okay, there you go. I thought I had to actually start it.
No.
Okay, new to me. So with the Careers and Technical Center, the effect on staff wasn't nearly as drastic as I thought it was going to be, because we're already a staff that are used to working from different locations and working together through the internet. Teams actually turned out to be a bit of a benefit for us. So working from home wasn't a big deal. Our staff actually, whoa. I don't know what just happened. My entire system went down.
Can you not see the PowerPoint?
I can't see anything. Everything went black. All of my screens.
Oh no.
I literally have no screens.
So you look frozen. Your PowerPoint is still up, however, and we can still hear you. We have 2 out of 4.
Wow, I love it. I even practiced today to make sure it was all working. I think I'm going to have to, if I can.
Oh, you're not frozen anymore. Oh, now I can see that the screen is gone on our end as well. Perhaps we might be able to get some thoughts from wonderful tech savvy Dale around how to move forward.
It looks like he's still frozen. I'll try and give him a call right now.
Okay.
If I could, through you, Chair.
Yes, absolutely, Superintendent. Go ahead.
Yeah, possibly if we can get this going, perhaps Dale, we could ask Mr. Beeston to send the PowerPoint, and maybe to Karen, and Karen could show the PowerPoint, and maybe we could go on to the next speaker while we're waiting. Yeah.
Sounds good. Working on it now.
Does that work for the team? I'm happy with that, and then we can loop back around to Principal Beeston once we have the PowerPoint up and running again. So Deputy Superintendent Tim Davey, did you want to introduce the next speaker, and we can come back around after?
Sounds great, thank you. And I think that's an excellent workaround here, and hopefully we'll get Mr. Beeston back on for his presentation this evening. It's again my pleasure to introduce Principal Justin Mark from Island Connect Ed. As noted, we've had a lot of changes through Island Connect Ed and some updates, but I'm looking forward to this presentation. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to Principal Mark.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Davey, for the introduction, and It's an honor and privilege to be here. I was very touched by the opening, and it's very much a wonderful thing to be part of a team that wraps around the community as we do, as we saw in the beginning. So I'm going to get a little bit of background about Island Connect Ed. I'm going to move into my presentation. So Island Connect Ed is it's a fairly complex school in the sense that we have a kindergarten through grade 7 program, and we have a grade 8 and 9 full-time program as well. We have a grade 10 through 12 full-time program, and we also serve cross-enroll students. So those would be students who are students at a brick and mortar school and are taking individual courses with Island Connect Ed teachers. In addition, we have adult learners who take our courses, and we have a Tier 3 flow program. And the flow program again is a Tier 3 program that focuses on social and emotional wellness for it's a program of 12 students that focuses on social emotional wellness for some of our most how do you say it, our most oh, come on now, our vulnerable students. There we go. Right. Got it. That's the word I was searching for. So I wanted to tell a little bit of a story tonight because, as many of you know, this is my first principalship, and I was a vice principal at Hammond Bay for 2 years and at Georgia Avenue, and I started my principalship at Island Connect Ed in the beginning of July, and it's been quite the journey. So I'd like to tell a little bit of a story here with my slideshow. Just give me a second, please, to set it up. All right. Are we able to? We
can see it, and so far no technological issues. We're good. We will celebrate that.
Very good. Just at the end instead of the beginning, but that's okay. Sometimes it's good to wrap it around. There we go. All right. So I really like this this image. You know, Island Connect Ed, the ICE for short. We have our the Yeti is our logo, our mascot, if you may. And very much during the pandemic time, it's been a fluid and changing landscape, and we've had to adapt. And it's been an exciting time. So I would say our school's a 12-month program, and it operates through July. Our teachers support their students through July, and we usually have a 2-week shutdown in August. And I think it was around July 28, maybe when the provincial announcement first came out, that our registration in our phones started ringing. And it rang and it rang and it rang and it rang. And then I remember a day, I think, when Deputy Superintendent Davey was trying to reach me, and it was a bit of a challenge because our 2 phone lines were always busy. So the phone rang for about 3 or 4 months. We've gone from a little Yeti to a big Yeti. I'm just going to overview some of the numbers. So our K-7 program has grown from 100 students, or just over 100 students, to 700 students. And we've grown from about 3 teachers to 20 K-7 teachers. We have our 8-9 programs from about 70 students to 250 students, or just under right now. Again, from 2 teachers to 7 plus a full-time SST. Our grade 10, 12, we have over 300 full-time students and over 1,000 cross-enrolled students at this time. That number is fairly fluid as each quarter, as we go through each quarter at the secondary schools, we have continued enrollment with a cross-enrolled. And currently our grade 10 to 12 teams from 10 teachers to 15. We have 5 teachers working at the brick and mortar high school sites until the end of Q2 here. So how did we respond? Well, one of the first things, and this always kind of it seemed like a little bit of a miracle. I don't know, coming from a French immersion background, it's very difficult to find French immersion teachers, period. And then I think to find a French immersion teacher who's willing to teach online is even more challenging. So we were very fortunate to start a French immersion program, and we found 2 amazing teachers. I call them unicorns because they're rare and they hit the ground running, and they teach a grade K to 9 program, and we have that at the Woodlands site. And so our small school on Jingle Pod has expanded to the Woodlands site, and we have currently 11 staff working at the Woodlands site. One of our real challenges responding to our growth was our growth was growing. Our students were growing faster than our staff, and so it was very important to us as a team and with our K-7 team that we were able to provide learning for families right off the beginning. And at the same time, we were very cognizant of our safety and health practices. So if you know the Jingle Pot site, we have a roundabout, and so we would have these drive-through days where we would, be out there with our masks on and handing resources to parents and getting them going from day one. And it was, I know it'll be a time when we look back and we think of those drive-throughs, and we had maybe 3 or 4 staffs in a TOC or 2 helping to support, 400 or 500 learners. And we're very happy at this point to have our full contingent of staff and have every teacher attached to a group of students in their families. And but I'll never forget these drive-through moments where we were working to get the resources out to families right away and get them going with their learning. This is a picture of I don't know if you recognize the benches just outside of Woodlands. We have, as I mentioned, 10 staff, and this is one of our teachers doing an outside library activity with her students. And it's just, it's been an incredible thing to have 2 sites and to see the culture that's grown there and to see the creativity of teachers as they connect with their families during this time. So, adapting to the needs of our students and families has been one of our greatest challenges. Typically with online learning, we would see families choosing online learning as a school of choice, but the pandemic has changed that. So the demographic of our students and the needs of our students and families has changed very much, and we've wanted to respond to that, and that's been one of our greatest challenges, not just meeting the needs of the enrollment, but meeting the specific needs. So some of the things that I'm most proud of with our team, with our K-7 team, as we onboarded 20 teachers, is coming together with these many of them new teachers, and just really examining what are the needs of our students and looking at our curriculum and redesigning that curriculum to meet the diverse needs of those students. One of the partnerships that we started early was working with Jackie Poulin and her team of learning coordinators. We really sort of embraced that resource to help us develop the best resources, and we've just gone through an incredible transformation of our grade 8-9 program, where we've completely redesigned our curriculum, offering different options for some of our grade 8 and 9 learners who are struggling with the current model. And we very much used an RTI, a database decision-making approach, to look at the data, look at the successes, and then be flexible enough, and then working with the wonderful learning coordinators and redesigning curriculum and looking at a different platform. We've housed it in Google, and we just launched that this week, and very, very excited about this. And it's, as we're kind of confronted with just sort of surviving the pandemic and surviving the growth and surviving all the changes, I'm very proud of the team for their ability to be so responsive to the needs of our students and to make these massive changes on the fly here. So where do we want to go? Well, as we look at all our programs, we want to continue to meet the needs of our students. We don't want to use the pandemic as an excuse. We want to be very cognizant of student success and meet the needs of those students. And we're continuing down our path today. Our K-7 team, a kindergarten, a grade 1 team under the leadership of our coordinator, Lindsay, we're already meeting, and they've been doing some wonderful work with our learning coordinators and looking at different ways to deliver material and just diving into that beautiful work. we want to celebrate our successes as well, and the Flow program is a Tier 3 program, and if I may, I wanted to show just a quick little video, and I hope that this this will work here. And this, to me, this is what keeps me going. This is the room where I find my wellness. To introduce you to our students here.
Flow is a safe place for me because it's filled with people that I enjoy being around and I trust deeply.
Flow has helped me with a lot of my anxiety.
Flow has given me a second chance to graduate. I haven't been able to attend school regularly until Flow from about grade 7, so it's kind of given me a second chance to actually be successful.
I don't think I'd really survive in normal school, so I'm very grateful that it exists.
It means that I can learn without having as much difficulty as I would in a normal school.
Getting my life back on track to be able to graduate.
As a family, I love how therapeutic and self-reflective we can be, and that it prepares us for mainstream school.
A caring support system every day.
A safe and supportive environment to be here, and thanks to Flow, I'm 9 months clean of self-harm.
Not only did it help me catch up from not going to school for a year and made me so I can go to all the mainstream courses that I need to, but it also teaches you how to make healthy and responsible relationships with your peers and how to lean on others and trust others. And I think that's something that I would never have learned anywhere else.
And it's not just me as a teacher, it's Sherry as a support worker and my EAs and the kids themselves, how they support each other, and our wonderful principal, the principals I've been so lucky to work with over the past 4 years. And I just love this program and I love my job. It's family.
So that was my Christmas present. The Flow class asked me to come down, and they wanted to share something with me on the last day before our break, and that was my Christmas present. And for a tier 3 program to offer that type of wellness to its principal alone says a lot. So I'm just so proud of the wins there, and again, I'm so proud of the team at ICE and how we've responded to the growth and how we're continuing to grow and adapt to the needs of our students. So I wasn't sure if this picture should be rough water or big tidal waves that we're surfing down, or maybe it's times ahead. But I love the metaphor of paddling together in the canoe. So thank you so much for the opportunity to present to you, and it's wonderful to be here tonight.
Thank you very much, Principal Mark. Because I know you'll understand, je suis très content que tu as trouvé des professeurs en français qui parlent en français.
C'est bien, un petit miracle.
I was just saying that I was very happy that he was able to find some teachers who speak in French, and I agree they are definitely unicorns. There's clearly a need in our district for your program, and I'm so happy to hear that we were able to accommodate our French immersion students as well. And so a big shout out to the teachers who came and joined the program, and for that your work to make that accommodation. So that's wonderful. Yeah, what amazing growth that has occurred in your program in such a short period of time. I'm very, very impressed and grateful for all you've done. I'm going to put it out there to trustees and staff to see if they have any questions. And I can see that Trustee Stanley does have a question for you this evening. Go ahead, Trustee Stanley.
Hi, thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you. I haven't had an opportunity to meet you yet, but I'm very grateful to you because I'm a French immersion parent, and therefore being a trustee that is a French immersion parent, I got a lot of messages about remote learning or online learning for French immersion before we had settled this. And so I'm very grateful that you were able to find the unicorn and create the program, which I actually think makes us a bit of a leader across the province. Not everyone was able to do this or tried. So I have a lot of gratitude for that, but I also think, and I guess this is my theme for this meeting, but I think this is one of those COVID silver linings, or I hope it's one of those COVID silver linings. Doing a French immersion program or a language learning program online has got some challenges because learning a language not in person is a challenge, right? It's a barrier. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how we are doing with our online French immersion and if you see a future for this.
Yeah, thank you for the question and thank you for your comments. We have about 50 students right now taking our French immersion program, and I was actually there today meeting with the team, and it's a tricky thing because you have two teachers serving a K through, I think it's a K through 4 and a 5 through 9 program. So that's a very big ask of any educator because they're having to develop it for the first time as well. So it's always the first time going through is difficult. I would say, just in my experience in online learning, I think there's an opportunity once the pandemic's over for more face-to-face experience. And if you could imagine a blended like a virtual and a program that had face-to-face components, it could continue. I don't know what the demand will be like if I'm being honest, and I look at the numbers of 50 students in district, and I think, to next year, how many of those families are choosing that option because of health and safety concerns of COVID, and how many are just appreciating the self-paced nature and the virtual nature and the flexibility that an online program offers. I think potentially if the program were to be offered provincially, there could be a future for it. And but it's always that difficult nature for any teacher having to sort of teach across that range of grades. And then sort of juggling the realistic numbers as well, right? So I do think about the future of it, and I wonder if in district it's something that could continue. Like I don't know if we, like say we drop to say 25 students, could we support that K to 9 with a single teacher? That would be a pretty large ask. However, we do have the program built now, right? So they would be ahead that way. So. Yeah, something to consider moving forward, but I think it would probably have to be a program that would be extended beyond the boundaries of NLPS. Yeah.
Right, and so that's interesting as well from a revenue generation perspective. But thank you. I'm glad that you're thinking about the future in that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Trustee Stanley. Do you have a follow-up? I'm assuming that was your. Okay, great, perfect. I see that we have Trustee Higginson that also has a comment. Go ahead, Trustee Higginson.
Thank you. Hi, Principal Mark. So we're supposed to ask questions. So I'll frame this in the form of a question. Did I hear you say that you just started like in July at Island Connect Ed?
Yeah, that's correct.
So in my head, I knew that you were new there, but for some reason I thought you had a year under your belt. So, wow. I really want to extend my gratitude to you because maybe I shouldn't say things like this, but I really can't think of a district program that has been more impacted by this current situation that we are living through than Island Connect Ed. And to see that you are, one, still standing and so passionate about it and feeling so emotional, and to hear you answering Trustee Stanley's question about like, well, after this is over, like the fact that you could even think about things other than the immediate. I just really am so grateful that you are leading us at Island Connect Ed through this change, and thank you for all the information you gave tonight. I've learned a ton about not only the program in general, but what you've had to adapt to through this process, and it's pretty amazing. I'm really impressed with our staff tonight and what we're hearing, and I know that a big load of this is on the shoulders of our principals. You guys are really caught in the middle of sort of all the demands of this. And so I'm really grateful to you, and wow, amazing. Like two days into the job. Thank you for everything. Thank you. Thanks for your awesome presentation tonight.
I really have to add and just take a moment of my gratitude to Don Balcom, just for the support that I've received from the district. Just always there for me and walking me every step of the line. So thank you very much, Assistant Superintendent Malcolm. All right.
Thank you, Principal Mark. You're clearly a wonderful addition to the program. We're grateful that you're there and doing the great work that you are. Thanks for your presentation, and I'm going to pass it back over to Deputy Superintendent Davey.
Madam Chair, thank you. And Principal Mark, I just want to again say hi, SEPCA, and raise my hands to you and your team for the work that you've done over there. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation, and we look forward to our continued work with you and your excellent leadership and guidance for the program. So I appreciate that, and if I can also say, I would be remiss if I didn't make note and say that it was a pleasure to see my cousin in the slide there, Sherry Martin, who's the youth care worker in the FLOW program. So thank you for sharing all of that this evening. As noted at the beginning, Madam Chair, you had asked, we'll save questions till the end. I know each of our presenters is staying online, and if there are further questions for any of them, they're happy to answer those at the end of all the presentations here. I'll move forward here, and it's again with great pleasure to introduce our next presenter. Mr. Hancock is principal at the Learning Alternative Programs, and for those of you who are familiar with Learning Alternative Programs, it encompasses a varied and vast array of programs throughout our district here. I've had the pleasure of working with each of these individuals who are presenting this evening, including Mr. Hancock, who was a teacher in the Learning Alternative Programs and is now in a position very solidly to lead us through all of these programs. So it's a pleasure to turn the floor over to Mr. Hancock. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Davey. I'd like to share my screen and welcome and greet each of you in a good way. Chair, are you able to see that?
I'm able to see that, yes, thank you.
Through the chair. Siemna Salquin, Siemna, Siaya, Siemna, Squaliqua, Anthapa, Brett Hancock, Tanit Smith, Snanemo, Isepka, Iquaminus, Miteko, Tanaquail, Iquanis, Ilamnama, Tanaquail, Isepka, Snanemo. Thank you. Thanks for letting me practice the language of this beautiful land where we live, we learn, we love, and we laugh. I raise my hands to Sanawas, to Snanemo, and to Staminis for sharing their traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories with each of us at NLPS. Not only does Snanemo share their land with each of our 4 school sites, but they share Elder Lolly Good. And Elder Lolly is our elder in residence at our Woodland site. The good medicine that Elder brings our school every Thursday cannot be properly summed up in words, because it's love and care that you need to experience in her presence. If I had to choose a word, it would be the Hulkameetnam word of Aitsqualawan, which means good heart and good mind. Elder's songs, her language, her stories, they light up the studio with smiles and laughter. COVID has changed where Elder resides when she's at our Woodland site, but it has not changed the powerful teachings that she provides us. Elder is taking a break from in-class instruction with us this January, but every morning she texts me, sharing a beautiful message, making sure that we keep the teeth to mutsits, that's the Hulkameetnam word for students, singing and feeling that they're loved. All of our programs have managed to be flexible and make sure that they're safely supporting each student, family, and staff member through the 2020-2021 school year. At our Barsby campus, we have our Senior Learning Alternatives and our Ravens program. At Woodlands, we have About, Intro to Trades, and our Take a Hike program. Learning Alternatives also has 2 adult programs, one at Nanaimo Correctional Center and another program at Woodbank called Snowayat Laylam. Both of these adult programs have moved to online learning during the pandemic. With staff and students spread across the city of Nanaimo, I'm honored to be a part of a school family that improves life chances and shows that we are more than a school every day. 4 school goals of innovative instruction and assessment for our students and parents, building belonging for our diverse learning community, leading land-based and environmental stewardship and sustainability, and truth and reconciliation align extremely closely with those of the NLPS strategic plan. But for the 2020-2021 school year, we needed to make another list of goals to guide what we do and how we do it. We've made it our mission to make sure that every student and staff member feels safe and they feel supported at our school sites. We as a school have been successful in helping lower the anxiety about our new normal. We never forget to laugh, even if it's at the expense of the school administrator. We show students, families, and colleagues that they're cared for and that we love them. We teach some pretty amazing things, provide innovative opportunities, but none of this can happen until everyone feels safe, calm, happy, and cared for. Growing up as a kid, playing many combative sports like rugby and lacrosse, I was never too worried about my wellness. I was worried about the team winning. As a young teacher, my loving parents, and great administrators reminded me that students are now my team, and winning is supporting their mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional wellness. Now, as an administrator trying to lead learning through a global pandemic, my family will not let me forget the importance of the wellness of staff. If we want to support students, we need to make sure our team of staff are ready and supported too. So it's with great pride that I share with each of you that our dream team of staff are all soaring at Learning Alternatives. I'm sure Superintendent Saywell has shared in many meetings the importance of John Hattie's research. Hattie's research involves many millions of students and represents the largest collection ever of evidence-based research that actually works in schools to improve learning. The intervention that has the largest effect size of 1.57 and the most effective thing that we as a staff can do, especially during a global pandemic, is collective teacher efficacy. This is staff's shared belief that through our collective action, we can positively influence student outcomes. This belief, this intervention has allowed us to set a record with 77 graduates last June during a global pandemic. We will never stop wholeheartedly believing in students. It's not just our job, this is our mission. We at Learning Alternatives put love into everything that we do. We're also pretty good at remembering the importance of laughter. But this was a bit challenging when we were introduced to the virtual world of Microsoft Teams last March. We were brought together daily for regular updates, check-ins, meetings, but it was a bit bumpy. So we decided to add some music trivia, some wardrobe themes, and bingo as a break from the heaviness of our staff meetings and updates. All of a sudden, our school was a family again, and we felt the love and we laughed together. Music and the arts have been such a huge part of what learning looks like in all our school-age programs during this pandemic. Students and staff both share daily how therapeutic this has been for them. From our soon-to-be famous student, Ash Edwards, recently winning the Legion's Remembrance Day contest for her beautiful music video, to our 94 calls to action art project that involved every student at the Woodlands campus. Each time I walk into a classroom, I can feel students smiling through a mask, and that fills my heart. Many of our students have experienced more trauma than any youth should ever have to endure. So we paddle alongside them, and we make sure that they know school is a safe place. School is a place where they can call home. They can call school home because we are a family. We pride ourselves on building positive student-teacher relationships at Learning Alternatives. So pre-pandemic, before every BC school needed to create a learning group and a cohort, we'd already built the cohort model. Our cohort model allowed each student and parent to have a voice in who their cohort teacher would be. Each Learning Alternative student has a cohort teacher, and that teacher is responsible for regular communication to families and reporting on every class that that student is enrolled in. This model allows parents only to have to make one phone call, to make one email, to immediately find out their son or daughter's graduation path. It allows students to work alongside an adult that believes in them and someone that they trust for an entire school year. Through our cohort model, our teachers still work collaboratively to provide rich opportunities in their areas of strength. But with only one teacher reporting and communicating to the families, it helps build that strong and healthy relationship with every one of our families. Our 2020 graduating class shared that this model is one of the things that made our school so special and supportive for them. You will hear me use these words regularly, and the words dignity, purpose, and options are things that we believe wholeheartedly that we need to provide to every single one of our students. So I want to share what these words mean to our school family. Dignity means students leave our programs knowing they've worked hard, knowing they've been challenged and found success. They know and believe that they have accomplished difficult goals. Purpose. Students leave our programs knowing who they are. They know what they have to offer this world. They believe their contributions are important. And options. Students leave our program with the knowledge and skills necessary to be successful beyond the walls of our school building. We will work hard every day to improve life chances for our youth, and we never, ever will give up on a kid. We're always looking to celebrate our amazing students and staff on different social media platforms. Many of our teachers have school Facebook or Instagram accounts that allow them to share their lessons with both students and families. Our school also has an Instagram, Twitter, Facebook page to go with our school website. We look forward to celebrating lots of student success in 2021. So if you haven't already, please give us a follow and check out our amazing school. I raise my hands to each of you for supporting me in growing this beautiful school over the past 3 years. I'm definitely one proud principal.
Thank you so much to Principal Hancock for your presentation. I'm going to say Brett because Principal Hancock, your presentations and all of the work that your program and all the staff and all the students continues to do just has such a grounding impact. Every time you present, I think, I'm always reminded of why we're here and why we're doing this work. And I know I'm not going to use the term correctly, but you live and breathe the Iasqualluin. Am I pronouncing it right? In everything that you're doing. And so I'm so grateful for everything that you're doing in your program. Congratulations to the 77 students that graduated in your program during a pandemic. Amazing. And I just wanted to comment that I think we should make it a standard protocol for us to teach as Mr. Wolf, because who wouldn't want to listen to Mr. Wolf in learning math or whatever it was that Mr. Wolf was teaching. So I appreciate your creativity, and I'd like to know what other wardrobe changes were put into place for those classes. Anyways, I could chat for a while. I appreciate your presentation, and I wanted to put it out there to staff and trustees to see if anybody has any questions for Principal Hancock this evening. I'm not seeing any, so I want to give a big, oh, I do have a comment. So I have a comment from Trustee Stanley. Go ahead.
Hi, Brett. Sorry, I'm going to break rules here because I'm no longer the trustee for Learning Alternatives, and I feel like, you know, deeply sad. So I'm going to take an opportunity to say something publicly to Brett and to his team, because it has been a true honor to be your trustee. I have learned so much from you. I'm going to get a bit teary. I could not imagine a better person to be where you're at and doing the work you do than what I've seen from you and your team. And so I don't know, thank you for everyone allowed me this opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity to observe, even just in your emails, and the care and thought and connection that is established in them. It's an honor to watch you work, because you do things differently. And I really appreciate that difference, because you, in a profound, meaningful, and grounded way, communicate care to our students, to our staff, and to education. And I have immense respect for that. So thank you publicly. I wear my Learning Alt sweatshirt proudly everywhere, and I'm really appreciative for the time that I've had to observe and learn from you and your students and your staff, and consider me a fan of the program.
I will have to wear my hat next time, and we can be coordinated.
Yeah.
Thank you. Those are great words, Trustee Stanley, and I can't agree more. Are there any other questions or comments this evening before I pass it back to Deputy Superintendent Davey? I'm not seeing any, so I'll pass it back over, and then I believe we're going to loop back to Principal Beeston.
Madam Chair, thank you. And just before we move on with Mr. Beeston here, and I just want to express my gratitude again to Principal Hancock. My hands are always raised to the fantastic work that you do, and I also want to point out, you know, the backdrop that Mr. Hancock had shared with us behind him today. Just the reflection of the true sense of team, as has been noted in the presentation, but the great work of the staff through learning alternative programs, and that togetherness. I note they're not standing behind you, they're standing with you, Mr. Hancock, and thank you for your leadership as well. So appreciate that. It's again my pleasure to reintroduce Mr. Beeston. I know we are in for a treat here in terms of the Career and Technical Center programs, and I hope trustees that you're left with a sense of, even during a global pandemic, the fantastic work that is occurring everywhere, from corner to corner throughout this district. And I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Beeston for our next presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davey, and sorry about the technical glitch. It turned out that it was a broadband problem. Apparently we don't have enough here to to send out a PowerPoint and the Teams at the same time. So thank you to the DAC team who is going to run the PowerPoint for me at that end, so we don't run into another glitch.
Thank you for coming back.
Now, I did present to the whole board recently on what the CTC is, so I'm not going to rehash all of our programs. I will be touching on how each one was affected by the pandemic as we go through the slideshow. Thank you, Karen. Okay, so as I was saying, we were already sort of set up to work remotely because we were always on the road from each other. So the effect on the staff really wasn't a big deal. We managed to, Teams was an amazing connection, It's actually turned into a better connection tool for us, as now we can, if a student's in with a counselor, they can literally just tap one of us on the shoulder per se, and one of us will just pick up the Teams meeting, and we can actually work with them right in live time instead of having to worry about setting up meetings and trying to connect. So Teams has made an actual positive difference on our communication with students and counselors and parents. So staff-wise, it wasn't a big concern. Program-wise, each program was affected differently by it. Trade Sampler was sadly postponed this year by VIU. We ran a regular program and an all-female program last year in Trade Sampler, and it was incredibly successful. And pre-pandemic plan with VIU was to add an all-Aboriginal sampler. So we were going to run 3 samplers this year, and due to COVID, all 3 were canceled. So that was really disheartening to us. We understand why, and there's nothing we can do about it. So we're working with VIU in hopes of what next September and February can look like when it comes to the trade sampler. When it comes to our train and trades program, and that's sort of our big one, where we send kids, as a quick reminder, up to VIU for anywhere from 9 weeks to 12 months. And they do all the work that's required for them to complete their level 1 in one of 21 different trade areas or trade or technology areas. It shifted to at least 50% online, which was quite a shock to our students, as I was saying before, because our students are hands-on type people. And when they had to start doing their work online and doing work on the computer and sitting in their bedroom instead of in a classroom, we really had to work hard with them to keep them motivated to stay. So far, we have not lost more students than we typically lose through attrition. So of the 115 students that started the program so far this year, we've only lost 5%, which is typical. So it hasn't affected us in that way, in a big way yet, but we still have 6 students right now that are sort of on the bubble, and we're really working hard to try to put supports in place to get them over that hump and make it so that when they get back into the classroom again, that they're prepared to finish the program out. So we're hoping to stick up in our 90%, 95% success rate, but time will tell. And because of all the stuff on the screen, I can't really see all of my own slides, so I'll just keep going on with it. Typically with the trade students, they struggle to adapt, has been our biggest challenge. Recruitment for 21-22 is going incredibly well. We think we're going to be oversubscribed for just about every program. So it shouldn't be a big deal. Moving on to work in trades, and that's our apprenticeship program where we go and work with students and employers, and most of their education is done on the work site, much like a work experience program. But this is the one where they get their $1,000 scholarship and their hours recorded with the ITA. It's been a big challenge because we had hair salons and restaurants shut down. It was really difficult for those students that were in those programs to get any hours. So it's been a struggle in those particular trades. The other trades like carpentry, welding, and automotive, and the more typical trades you'd think of, surprisingly haven't really been affected. They've still been going pretty strong. They've got really strong COVID protocols in place. They've been working with WorkSafe BC building these protocols. And I've been out on a few job sites, and I'm really impressed actually at how well the workers are sticking with it and maintaining distance. Unless they don't have, if they have to be close together, they're putting masks on. And that isn't what I expected, honestly, walking onto a job site. So I'm really impressed with how safe they're taking, how serious they're taking, and how safe it is for our students. We've changed roles and responsibilities for our work and trades program. I used to run it as part of my job, and this year, because the elementary trades trailer, we weren't sure exactly how to make it work this year. Our new teacher, Matthew Murray, that came in from Wellington and joined our team this year, he picked up all the work in trade stuff, and that's been a really a good thing for our programs too. Number of students should be increased by the end of the year, and we switched to a lot of Teams and virtual meetings. So with the blessing of WorkSafe BC, now we do our site inspections over an iPhone instead of being on site. So another surprising benefit, I guess you could say, is that our mileage bill, which is usually quite high every month, has dropped significantly. So there's actually been a savings there. Other than that, work in trades seems to be going along. The enrichment program is probably where we're seeing our biggest change, because VIU shifted to 100% online for this whole year so far for all of the academic courses. And it increased availability to our students that might have been hesitant taking it before because they weren't sure how they were going to juggle being at VIU and being in class at the same time. But because it went 100% online and instructors are recording their sessions, it took away that barrier. So we actually doubled our enrichment students from last year to this year based on that alone. So we've had an overall increase in enrollment. And as I work with the students through the first term, the biggest challenge they had, as understandably, is the lack of connection, the lack of being in the room, those spontaneous conversations that come up that might not even be part of the curriculum, but they are engaging and enriching for everybody in the room. Those just don't happen as much over a Zoom session or a team session. So that was the biggest complaint I received from the students. But surprisingly, again, to me, they were actually incredibly impressed with how well the VIU instructors switched from classroom to online. And they literally, like our teachers, had to shift overnight to teaching and delivering courses in a different way. And our students were really appreciative of the hard work that those instructors put in and still made the courses challenging and interesting. So other than the decreased contact, it wasn't a huge barrier for our students. Elementary trades, we're just starting to deliver it. Actually, our first delivery this year was over at the Flow program at Island Connect Ed, and it went very well. And we're just easing back into that. We worked hard with the safety department and Assistant Superintendent Tate to make sure that all of our safety protocols were in place. Because our vehicle moves from school to school, we had to create these protocols to make sure that not only are the students safe, but that our staff were safe in sharing tools and putting protocols in place for that. So it's moving along at a good pace now, and we should probably end up at about, I'm going to say at about 30% of our regular connection with elementary schools this year. So that's a bit of a downside, but it's still being delivered in a robust fashion, and the students that are receiving the program seem to be enjoying it. Next slide. So CTC response. It's been troubling because searching for new ways to support our students. Normally we have our Friday sessions where we have all of our students that are having problems or just want extra time to work. We go up to VIU and we have 2 classrooms up there, and we work with the students all day Friday and teach them things like study sessions, how to study, how to find the right material to study. And it ends up that what happened last year, which was really quite fun, was we actually had a few of the adults that aren't part of our program ask if they could sit in on our Friday sessions. And we allowed a few of them in there, and it turned out to be really neat. So replacing that, we have found to be our absolute biggest challenge this year, because supporting students through teams just isn't the same as being able to be in a group and going over questions with them. So we're still working on better methods to support kids distance-wise. So that is our biggest challenge with that. We're building a new suite of recruitment tools. Normally we would be in the schools every day. One of us would be in one of the schools for half a day. We're just not doing that as much this year. And although there's some advantages to Teams, we can instantly meet with counselors and students, there's disadvantages for not being in the building. So what we're doing is creating, with help of our communications department, a poster campaign involving students from the schools involved in the campaign itself. We're creating new PowerPoints. We're creating new Doodly videos to send out to students, and we're looking at possibly even doing some newspaper type of advertising that we can get word out to people about programs. It seems that our numbers aren't low yet this year, but we're concerned about next year, because we're still, the kids that we're working with this year to go into programs for next year are kids that we've been working with for 2 years now. But this year, because of our disconnect, we're worried about 22, 23, to be honest with you. So that's why we're trying to build some new recruitment tools. Working with our partners and comparing evidence for best practice moving forward, we work with lots of other school districts that are also doing career and CNC dual credit. We work with Kamloops, and we work with North Island Campbell River, and we work with Saanich and Victoria. And we're constantly meeting and sharing best practices for each other. So that's been an incredibly helpful thing too. And the biggest thing that we're working on for next year is preparing students for the permanent change that's coming. So what's happening is VIU has found that most of their students like part of their program being delivered online. So they're looking at making this as not as extreme as it is this year, but making online delivery as part of their programs going forward. So us preparing our students for that eventuality is going to be a challenge. We're going to work with Justin on there to pick some tips up from him, but that'll be a challenge for a lot of our students that, like I said before, they're hands-on people that really want to get in there and do the work, and preparing them to be able to do a lot of this stuff online and more book work and less in class work. It's going to be our biggest challenge. What's next for the CTC? Oh, sorry, Karen, if you can go back one. Thanks. As I said, better communication tools to connect with students, parents, and staff. We're working with VIU now through the dual credit enrichment program to create cluster groupings to give students clearer options for life after school. And what we mean by that is, if a student thinks they want to go into trade, or if they think they want to go into tourism, or if they think they want to go into business, we want to be able to put clustering groups together, working with VIU and the high schools to support the kids as early as grade 10 on sort of charting their pathway to get to their goal. And that might involve some specialized trips up to VIU a few times a year to be on campus during their grade 10 year, and even during their grade 11 year. So when they hit grade 12, they've already got a connection and a relationship with departments up at the VIU campus. And we're also looking at giving them priority registration for programs if they've been in a cluster group, so that they would actually get preferential admission over top of anybody else. VIU is really honoring their commitment to dual credit programming, and it shows in all the work they're doing. Organizing certification camps to add to student skill sets. We're looking at starting that again. It won't be for this summer, but for next summer, we want to put that together. We did it 2 summers ago, and it was fantastic. That's where during the summer we bring in about 60 students, and we do up to 7 certifications for them in a week-long period. And then we bring in labor organizations to help them do resumes and build their personal brand and be able to go out there and sell themselves to employers. And it was incredibly successful the first year we did it. And the only reason it didn't continue is because our program, as some of you might know that were around for a while, we moved from school to school to school for about 3 years in a row. So we were sort of just running on life support for a little bit. So we've settled here at Dufferin, and it's a fantastic location. And now that we're settled, we want to get back into offering those types of programs. We're redesigning our elementary trades projects to include both Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal design to build something new. So we've been trying to figure out how do we honor the reconciliation goal in a true way. And our team came up with the idea that we don't, if we take the best from both cultures and put them together, it sort of fits in really nicely with what you're doing, frankly, of walking together. And it's showing that there's beautiful things from all sorts of cultures that can come together. And it doesn't always have to be this way or that way. And there's benefits to both. So that's one thing that we're really working hard to do. We're also shifting away from a delivery model to a support model with our elementary trades by use of the tool carts, which I showed last time I was presenting, and other methods. Reason being is we can't fill the requests that we have every year from elementary schools in a non-pandemic world. And it doesn't really make sense to just go out and build another trades trailer and hire another staff member. I don't believe that's the best way to move forward. I think the best way to move forward is to really support our elementary teachers with them delivering a lot of the content themselves and us being the support people that are in there, showing them how to do it and giving them the confidence to create their own programs that we just support. We're going to continue, of course, with the trades trailer and continue delivering it, but we feel that we'll be able to expand what we're doing in the elementary schools by building more knowledge in the grade 7 and grade 6 and 7 teacher cohorts to be able to deliver it themselves. And we're really excited about the different ideas that come back to us from those teachers because they make our program better. So that's sort of where the CTC's at. And sorry for rushing through that. I was a bit disjointed from the whole thing crashing and coming back up. So thank you, Karen, very much for running the PowerPoint for me. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Principal Beeston, for all your work to bring that presentation to us in 2 parts and for adjusting as needed there. Appreciate that. I just wanted to make a quick comment before putting it out for questions and comments of trustees. I really noticed in your presentation, one thing that really stood out for me was the many, in challenging times through the pandemic, you really seeked opportunities to do things differently to meet students' needs. I really appreciate the enrichment program and how it was able to increase the accessibility and enrollment of the students. It's fantastic news. Happy to hear that you're looking at expanding the ways in which the elementary trades trailers are being delivered. I've seen firsthand students participating in those trades trailers, and it's so much fun for them and a great way for them to get engaged and perhaps become future trade students as well. And then also those, what did you call them, the corner clusters?
Cluster groups.
Cluster groups, thank you. Yeah, so many creative ways that I'm seeing opportunities being presented to sometimes these challenging circumstances present opportunities. So that's wonderful to hear, and I appreciate you giving us that information. I would like to open it up for questions, and I'm seeing that we have Trustee Higginson has a comment this evening. Go ahead, Trustee Higginson.
Thanks, Chair. Hi, Derek. Nice to see you. It's so weird. You know what? I'm finding I don't like this, Derek, because when you come to visit us, you bring cool stuff for us to do. And so it's like the first time I was like, I want to play with tools. Anyway, so I am, you know, it's really nice to hear your presentation, but I do really miss it when you come in person. And I do want to just add to what Trustee Barron was saying, that I was fortunate enough to drop something off at one of my zone schools in December, and the trades trailer was there, and the kids were just beaming. And so it was a little reminder for me of not only the importance of the trade trailer, but the importance of the normalcy and the routine that that the program and that moment provided for them. They were all just so excited to be seeing it, and it was a really cool moment. I was glad that I picked that moment to drop it off, and I really want to thank you for plowing through when you mentioned at the beginning having to work with all the competing safety plans. That was something that I hadn't thought about. And so I just want to give my gratitude to you and your staff for plowing through on that, because this is such a vital program to so many students, and it's another reminder to us through these presentations of all the things that people have had to think about and deal with in order to keep our schools running, you know, as functionally as possible during this time. So I'm just, you know, want to extend my gratitude to you for the bright light that you bring, and I know how important it is because I miss playing with tools tonight. So thank you so much for plowing through and making those connections for our students. I'm really grateful.
Well, I just will say, Stephanie, that on February 12th, me and my team are doing something new again. We're pre-buying tools and supplies and dropping them off for teachers that are going to take our workshop on the Pro D Day. And virtually, we're going to work with them to build a toolbox to store their tools in to take back to their elementary classrooms to start their journey with elementary trades. So that'll be fun.
That is fantastic. Excellent. I love it. Thank you.
Great news. Any follow-up, Trustee Higginson? I'm going to assume no. I'm getting some comments on the side from Joanna Korthwaite, and I did not pronounce that last name wrong. I'm so sorry, Joe. But she's saying that she's so excited about this, so that's great. There's excitement happening. I wanted to ask a quick question, if I could. I know the CTC program had I say a wealth, but I don't know if that's an accurate description, but the program had many EAs that was working and supporting students, and, you know, through the hands-on work, there were, you know, I guess I was thinking when you were talking about that connection, I'm wondering what part the EAs and the support staff have been playing as the shift has been occurring to more online learning for these students, and maybe if you could describe a little bit of what that's looked like.
Well, we've only ever had one part-time EA that supported our kids on Fridays up at VIU. And that was a pilot that we had a year ago, and it was incredibly successful. But because we weren't going to be at VIU this year, it didn't really make sense to have that position again. So once we're back into that regular sort of flow we hope to get to, again, we'll petition again to see if we can get that support. Really, we also have, thanks through Lynn Brown, we have access to Bernadette French, who's amazing, and she acts as our child and youth family support worker. She has been busy with us this year because of all the anxiety with students. We call on her a lot. So we really appreciate the extra support that DAC has provided for us, that we normally don't get that support, right? Because we don't actually have students in our building. So we'll see what next year looks like, but it has been really good so far. But we just didn't require the EA support this year. There was no need for it. But Bernadette is very busy, so.
Good. Well, I guess wealth was the wrong word to use.
Well, we have enough, so
yeah.
There's no deficit either.
Great. I'm so happy to hear, and I'm certain you're being supported wonderfully by Bernadette. That's great news to hear. Thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions or comments, and so I will pass it back over to our Deputy Superintendent. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, thank you. And Mr. Beeson, I just want to again thank you and raise my hands to you as well. It's so nice to hear of the adaptability, I guess, that our leaders and our staff employees are just putting forward in terms of ways, imaginative and innovative ways to support students. So thank you, Mr. Beeston, and I wish to again thank all of our presenters this evening. I'm going to provide one final round of applause from me, and that's to our district staff. I know who have been working very diligently, and our learning coordinators in support of all of these programs as well. So I want to make sure that I extend that thanks. And trustees, again, I hope that this evening has brought to you that sense of hope and optimism that there are fantastic things that continue to happen throughout our district, given the times that we're in, and our students are in very caring and capable hands with our leaders and staff throughout our district. So thank you very much, Chair, for allowing us to be able to come and present to you this evening. Thank you so much.
Great presentations this evening, and I appreciate all that you do. Moving on to 8.3, and I'm going to pass this over to Secretary Treasurer Mark Walsh regarding Administrative Procedure 306, part-time students secondary schools. Over to you, Mark.
Good evening, Madam Chair. So we're going to be moving from the inspiring to the mundane here. Hopefully close it off relatively soon. But so this evening, as part of our ongoing efforts to review all of our APs and make sure our administrative procedures are either updated, followed, or deleted, here is an example of an AP that we do not enforce, and I don't think in consultation with staff here at the DAC that we would want to enforce, nor do we see a need to update the AP. So essentially, at some point, you'll see from the action or the information sheet, the AP was created in 1979 and amended in 1990. We assume it was a policy that moved into administrative procedure about how part-time students are supposed to get permission to be part-time and the requirements if they are to be part-time. And so again, we don't really run our system like this from a funding perspective or from a pedagogy perspective. So not an AP that we think that we need to update for the board, but rather to delete to make sure that there's no confusion. And good example is where the AP requires that secondary school principals can enroll part-time students if they're 16 years or older, or if they must be employed 4 hours per day or more, or have another equally compelling reason not to be full-time, and then they have to have a written agreement that they attend regularly, they leave the buildings and the grounds when they're not attending class, they abide by all school rules, cause no disruption of other learning outcomes, and if they breach these written agreement that their parent needs to sign to, they would be withdrawn from school. So again, just not a modern AP, and we intend to delete so we don't have to start to enforce. We're going for the low-hanging fruit in our first review.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer, for bringing that forward. Sounds like a pretty easy one for us to get through, as it doesn't align with any of the work that we're doing with students to date. I'm wondering if we have any questions or comments. I just want to acknowledge that I've been asking for questions or comments from staff and trustees, and unintentionally excluding our valued DPAC representatives that are also here. So just an acknowledgement that just came to mind now. If we don't have any questions or comments, we can move on. I'm not seeing any. Thank you very much, Secretary.
Next week, we're bringing forward the AP that involves barbed wire fencing, so be on the lookout.
Looking forward to it. It should be riveting.
Oh, that was close.
Thank you very much. So moving on to just looking on here, we have no correspondence, we have no unfinished or new business, and we have no questions this evening. Can I get a motion to adjourn? And it is moved by Trustee McKay and seconded by Trustee Keller. We are adjourned. Any objections? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone.